I felt and saw this presence of something like a ghost.
As I was reaching for my keys, something growled at me coming out of the basement.
It was bad energy. I was sort of feeling like I was letting Satan out of hell.
I saw out of the corner of my eye what I thought was the girl falling off the roof.
I couldn't think. It was so loud and I was so terrified that I just froze.
I'm not calling for that. I'm calling because I'm freaking out here.
I felt this presence trying to push itself down on top of me very violently.
It would not go away. It was freaking me out. I look at my arm and it's got a scratch on it.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ghosts of Greystone. My name is Clete.
I'm Chris.
And we are those Keith brothers. And tonight we're very excited to talk about spirit activity, apparitions, sounds. It'll be like poltergeist activity as well we're going to have, which will be, you'll see, it's going to be great fun to an extent, because let's talk about what this episode's about tonight.
Well, tonight's episode is the murder room.
Yeah,
and it's a big show tonight. I do want to do a disclaimer that we do have a light discussion about murder and suicide. So if you have little kids listening to this or whatever, it's may not be appropriate.
Yeah, it's because this is what really they think has caused all the activity. I'm not sure that's the case, but we have heard that before, that the murder-suicides caused all the activity. But it may have been something else that happened. But we're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about Ned and his friend Hugh Plunkett, and about what happened that night on February 16th, 1929.
Right.
And
make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show for the mystery sound that we have. We have an interesting one that's appropriate for the murder show.
Very appropriate for the show.
All right. And so about the murder room, it wasn't always called the murder room, right? It had a different name.
Of course, yeah. So when they built it, it was actually the South Guest Room. So, but you know, when things took place on that night, it's always been called the murder room. But when I started working there, I was told, don't say the murder room, don't talk about the murders. I think I've mentioned that in another show. The city was very adamant about not discussing that at all, when, you know, everybody who would come there would really want to know exactly what happened that night. So we'll get into it. This is my feelings about what happened that night. There was a book written by a guy named Leslie White, who was a detective. And Leslie he was there that night, and he wrote his own story about it. I think he kind of glorified what he did, because a friend of ours, Clark Fogg, talked about, and he's a forensic specialist with the city of Beverly Hills.
37 years, I think it was, with Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
CSI.
And he looked into the book and said that, well, the book isn't exactly how we would go about doing a forensic, whatever you would call it, investigation on the murder. So anyway, let's
start. We'll start with Ned and Hugh's relationship. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay. So Ned Doheny, he met Hugh Plunkett is his name. He met Hugh Plunkett. I don't know if you know this, but he met him at a filling station.
No, I never heard that. No,
it used to be called a filling station, gas station, a long time ago. Yeah, and Hugh was working there. I think his father owned the station. Ned met him. They became friends, and eventually Ned brought Hugh on to the property to oversee all the construction that was taking place. This is probably, I'm guessing, like 1927, 28. He brought him on because they were doing, all the work. Now, it wasn't that Hugh had this great background and overseeing everything. It's just that he wanted somebody to make sure that if there were any problems, it was brought to his attention.
So he was kind of overseeing the construction workers and just a general
and
issues. If they had issues, they'd go to him, and then he would
Right. Because the construction of the house of the people who were doing the architects and all that stuff, that was probably being done directly with he and Lucy, but he would oversee all that. So they became great friends. There are rumors, you'll hear about that, you'll read about that they were more than friends. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. The night of February 16th, Ned was in Hugh's room. And was in like a sleeping, what would you call it? Like a smoking jacket kind of thing, right? Or
smoking
a robe?
jacket.
Yeah. And so, they made a big thing about that. Oh my God, they found him in this smoking jacket or robe or whatever. He was in the room with him. We don't know. We don't know what they were doing. But they were very close. And they're still in the mansion, as we have discussed before in the living room episode, right?
Right.
They're still together. So.
Still together meaning?
In spirit.
In spirit.
Yeah, they're still there.
Yeah. The spirit box that we had on a previous episode.
Yeah. Both voices.
Had both voices.
Yeah,
it was
man.
pretty startling.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that night. I tell you what, here's what I want to do.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Teapot Dome scandal because that's what really leads up, I think, and a lot of other people think, to what happened the night of February 16th. The Teapot Dome scandal, and I'll make this quick, I don't want to bore you, but the Teapot Dome scandal was about Teapot Dome, Wyoming. And it was a reserve, oil reserve. Albert Fall, who was the Secretary of the Interior in the 1920s for the Harding administration, was friends with Sr., Edward Doheny Sr., and also Harry Sinclair, by the way. Out here in L.A., there you can see every once in a while you'll see a Sinclair gas station.
Yeah, there's one over there on what is it?
San Vicente and 26th or something like that. 20th.
Oh, ours.
Nearby. Yeah, out here. Yeah, in Santa Monica.
There's another one in West L.A.
Okay.
West Hollywood.
Yeah,
I think
Sinclair, and that's original. Goes all the way back to the 20s to Harry Sinclair. He was also friends with Albert Fall. Used to play cards and all that stuff. They were together. So Albert Fall gets into the Secretary of the Interior, and suddenly he's got the ability to give his friends access to these Federal Reserves. Now, you're supposed to do a whole bidding process and only allow so much and this and that. Well, he didn't do that. What Albert did was he gave Harry Sinclair access to Teapot Dome, Wyoming, and he gave Edward Sr. access to, it was called Elk Hills and Buena Vista Naval Oil Reserves. And so, and Edward made $100 million off of just that reserve. That's how.
When was this?
This is in the 20s.
Jeez.
So remember, and this is the Depression coming in,
right?
And when a penny meant something, and he's making $100 million off of that reserve alone, let alone down in Tampico, Mexico, and other reserves. He had huge reserves in Signal Hill. Had what do you call it? Derricks, oil derricks,
right?
Signal Hill. He was rolling it in. Well, so what he did was, once Edward Sr. got that gig in Elk Hills and Buena Vista, he sent his son, Ned, with Hugh to New York to go. They went to a bank. They got $100,000 out. That's a lot of money. Hey, it's a lot of money for me now.
Absolutely.
Let alone back in the 20s.
I can't even imagine what that was like.
Yeah, a lot of money. And so put it in a satchel, brought it to Albert Fall. They said it was a loan or a gift. That's what they were trying to explain to the courts. Albert took it. He got money from Harry Sinclair. And suddenly, here's Albert Fall, who didn't have a lot of money at all. He's at the parties. He's dancing. He's got cars and a new home and all that stuff. And people are going like, what's up with Albert?
Especially at that time.
At that time.
You're not buying all that.
Yeah. So they knew something was up. They looked into it and they found out he received some money for those oil reserves. So what they're going to do is they went after Harry Sinclair and locked him up pretty quickly. So Harry just went, okay, I got it. I did it. they were going to go after. Now remember, Edward L. Doheny Sr. was he and the Rockefellers, right? So that they were it, man. So they were going to go after the big fish, but they didn't want to go directly after him. They thought what they do is they go after who delivered the money, right? So they were going to go to courts and talk to Hugh and Ned. The family felt that Hugh was a very sensitive guy, and they didn't think he would hold up in court and he would spill the beans about everything with their plant, that it was not a loan, it was a give, it was like just paying him off. So they were trying to talk to Hugh and saying, maybe you should go into a sanitarium and just say that you have problems with your teeth, and so you're hooked on cocaine. That's what they used to use back then for their teeth.
Right.
We could only dream. But, so what happened was Hugh was like, he didn't think, they say, he was a little concerned. They didn't think he'd go in the sanitarium, never let him out, because he knew too much. He was there. He delivered the money. So they said that Hugh showed up on the night of February 16th, 1929, rang the gate, said he wanted to come in. He had keys to get in, but he wanted to go through the proper. He went up, saw the guy at the gate. Lucy said she didn't want him in, and he still came in.
Wow.
Drove in.
How do you know that?
It was documented.
Was
in
it?
I think it was Leslie White's book.
Okay.
So, which was statements from him or from the family.
Oh.
So, he comes in. They say that he may have gone. There's a room called the gun room, which we'll get into in the second floor. That he may have gone into the gun room because he knew the place. He helped oversee it and was very close to Ned. And he went in and got a gun out of the gun room, or he had a gun himself. And he came in to have this conversation with Ned because he was freaking out about they were really starting to turn the screws on him.
Right.
And they were going to get him. They're going to go after him.
You know what that feels like at closing in.
Oh, yeah. So it's like he was so panicked, and he wanted to talk to Ned about it. So he went to Ned, they were in the murder room, which was the south guest room, and they went in there and had this argument. Ned had been drinking because they found him on the floor with a glass of scotch. Hugh, I think, had some drinks as well, and they got into this argument, and shots were fired. Lucy, this is a lot of cover-up stuff because Lucy said she thought she heard a chair turn over. Well, she was in the living room, which is next to the murder room, literally the room next to the murder room. When they showed it in the LA Times, they did it was a huge story, right? They did it in the LA Times, and it showed the living room as the room furthest to the east in the building, which is actually the breakfast room. They said that's where the living room was. So that's why she
spinning
thought
the tail, right?
So she
it.
thought it was a chair. Well, it was gunshots. And so there was a cover-up. So within 48 hours, it was out of the papers.
Wow.
48. This is like one of the big crime situations at that time of the biggest family, one of the biggest families for sure, of oil, and out of the papers in 48 hours because of the money.
Yeah, they paid a lot of people off just to get it off.
The police.
Get it out
obviously.
of the view of the public.
Yeah. So, and just a small side note on this. So you have Hugh and Ned who deliver the money, $100,000 to Albert Fall. The courts go after Albert because he took the money. He takes the money. Albert Fall went to jail. They're going to go after Senior. They went after, ended up Ned and Hugh, and then they were dead. So they had a trial for Edward Sr., and the jury felt so sorry for him because he lost his only son. And he was a broken man then. Once that happened, he was a broken man. He lost his only son. They acquitted him of the crime. So the guy who gave the money is acquitted. The guy who took the money is in jail, and that's where the term the fall guy.
Is that really where the fall guy comes from?
Yes, it is. Albert Fall. Yeah,
Wow.
the fall guy. So
Took the fall. Huh?
he took the fall, man. He took the fall.
Did he? How long? Do you know anything about his prison sentence?
I think it was a year, a little over a year.
that's it?
Yeah, it wasn't like 20
I'd
years.
do that for $100,000.
You would.
Well, I would right now.
That says a lot about you.
Yes, it does.
All right. I would take half of that, by the way, if I could get it.
Well, I'd split it with you.
Oh, that's so kind.
Yeah,
Then do
well,
the term. Do
you
it.
go
Take
and-
the fall.
All right.
All right. So
Enough of that.
anyway,
Well, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. And finish.
that's what took place that night. They say that Hugh got so angry during the confrontation that he ended up shooting Ned, and then, having seen what he had done, killed himself. Now, in the book, Leslie White's book, it said that once, if you think about it logically, that she said she heard a chair turn over, right?
Ridiculous.
Okay, if she says that, she called the family doctor, Fitzbaugh, I think his name was, who was in a theater seeing, I think it was a play, and got a hold of him, and they get over to the mansion. In 30 minutes, now it was like at 10 o'clock at night was the turn over the chair. 10:30, she called. By 11 o'clock, Fitzbaugh was there and came in, and they say that it was Fitzbaugh and Lucy coming down the hall. And Ned, there used to be a door in the grand hall. I don't know if you know that. There used to be a big door in the grand hall, so you couldn't go down to the murder room. Big doors, two huge doors.
Okay.
And so Hugh opened it up and said, "Get back," one of those, and closed the door. And then they heard the bang.
Now, is that your interpretation?
No, that's Leslie's.
Okay.
That's what he said happened. But if you think about it, and this is not Leslie's, this just hit me. Why would she call the family doctor if it was just a chair that turned over?
Mm-hmm. She wouldn't hear the chair turn over and then call the doctor. She'd come in and see what was going on.
Yeah, it didn't say that she did, though.
I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Or not. Or maybe they were. The other part was that the bodies had been moved. The body had been for Ned for sure,
Right.
And Fitzbaugh denied that, and then came back later on and said, "Yes, well, I did. He was still gurgling, and I was holding his head, so that's why the blood's on both sides of his face. It was me."
Why do you think the body was moved, though? What's the point of that?
I think the point is if indeed you want another scenario. They wanted to make it look like Hugh shot Ned. I honestly think, and this is, it's just me, I honestly think that Ned shot Hugh and then killed himself. Because I think Ned was a through and through, right? And the bullet went into the wall. Hugh was lying in the hallway with the gun under him and with a cigarette still lit, and they said, in his hand. And it just, doesn't work for me.
So were Ned and Hugh close in terms of, were they lovers at all? Or?
Well, that was the thing. I didn't go that far, but yeah, there was rumors that they were. And who's to say?
So they were just rumors.
Nobody saw anything,
Okay.
But so we don't know the other scenario, which is a good point. The other scenario was that Mrs. Doheny, Lucy, caught them in that room, and she got upset, and she shot them. I mean, it goes on and on. We'll never know. We'll never know what happened that night, but they were both lying dead with bullet holes to the head. So it's
that's
right. So listen, if I shoot you, and there are times I've wanted to, oddly enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. But if I shoot you, and I can aim it exactly where I want to hit it, right? If it was an accident, how did it perfectly hit here and go through here?
Right.
And then Hugh shoots. It just didn't make sense to me.
Well, the interesting thing is for a room that the murder took place in, there's not a lot of paranormal activity in that room, is there?
There hasn't been a lot
that I've seen.
There have been some odd things, and we're going to get into those right now. So I hope that was okay that I went through the history of it. But there have been some strange goings on in that room.
Well, Luz had an incident. One of the Ranger Luz had an incident in the
Luz Rodriguez, who was a ranger, and she was the one I think had like 24 stories because she has the gift. We talked about her. She has the gift. She had something that a poltergeist activity in essence, and let's let Luz tell that story. You cool with that?
Yeah,
I think I'm done with the Ned and Hugh. I
think you hit all the points.
Yeah, if any questions or whatever, put the comments below. Let us know. But I think that's really kind of sums up what took place. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I should have said.
Well, you could bring it up afterwards. Basically, I wanted to add that about Luz's her duties. You said she just walks around, or what is?
Well, she's going to tell us.
Okay,
she's going to tell us. It's real simple. Let her tell. I always ruin the story, so let her tell the story. I get too excited.
You don't always ruin the story.
A lot of times.
Okay, here she is.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time I was in, the murder room. Shall we? The bathroom.
Let's go.
The faucet opened by itself. I'm not kidding.
It just started to flow by itself.
Yes, and they're not like the twisty knobs. They're the, And I was standing in there, because when you're here for a long time, you just kind of, you want to. It gets a little boring, so I would wander through the house and I would look through, carefully through the bathrooms, the detail on the tile. So in this bathroom, I was looking at the scale, so I had my back to the faucet. And then I heard the water, and I was just like, why is the water coming on? So I went and I turned it off.
Because it was literally turned.
It was turned, and it was running. The water was running.
Okay.
Yeah. And
then you turned it off.
I turned it off and I walked out and I heard it come on again. And so I said, okay, you guys, you can't play with the water because I'm leaving. We can't leave the water running. So I'm going to turn it off, leave it off. And I turned it off and it didn't come back on.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, you know her very well.
Yeah.
You find, she's so credible.
Yeah, no, it's... And listen, she had 24 stories, and I let her walk through the house, said, you lead me. You tell me what happened. Oh, in the murder room. And when you look at the sink, it's an oldie. So it's an old sink, and it's back near the hot and cold. And, sorry, it's my chair.
Yeah.
And it's they have stems. And then the thing on the top that you turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a star kind of thing, looking thing. And those are difficult to turn. It's not like I don't even know how you I don't know how to say that that's even possible. That suddenly there's a flow, and it doesn't come on until she comes into the bathroom,
right?
And she's over at what she said.
Wait, she walked in and turned on when she was inside the bathroom.
Yeah, so she went over to the scale. They have scales in the bathroom, so that still works. So she was going over, getting on the scale, and then suddenly the water comes on, and that's kind of poltergeist activity. It's actually by itself, and she was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" Turns it off, walks out, it comes on again, and we'll get into something else that's kind of like this in the second floor landing with another woman who was shooting. I think we've talked about her, actually. We have talked about Mary Nichols.
Yes.
Yeah. So she had something that happened to her on the second floor landing. It was just kind of bizarre like this. So that's why I was so taken aback when she said to me, and it came on, and I went, oh. And then it turned off. She turned it off, and it came on again.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
It's so weird.
Yeah. I love stuff like that, too.
It's great.
Yeah.
Martin had an experience.
In the murder room, which he's the day porter.
Yeah, he's the day porter, and it's really not in the murder room, but it relates to the murder room. And Martin is he's not working there anymore. Thank God. I think he's probably said that first, but He was a very quiet Hispanic guy. I really liked him. He was a very kind, nice guy. But he was always really frightened to work inside the mansion.
Right.
And let's let him tell the story. And he talks about Ranger Chan. He gets them mixed up. There's Ranger Che and Ranger Chan. So he may say, oh, it's Ranger Che. Yeah. Well, or Ranger Chan. Yeah. Well, it's Che. You'll see what I mean.
But he means
Chan.
Chan.
Yeah.
Ranger Chan.
Ranger Chan was with him. And by the way, Chan doesn't want to be in the house either. Just so you know.
Okay. Here he is. Here's Martin.
Yep.
There was a time with me and Ranger Che. Which is the younger one, Chan or Chen?
Chan is the youngest, yeah.
Chan? Mm-hmm. Me and Chan were in the center. And
center of
the
Grand Hall?
The Grand Hall.
Okay.
Center of the Grand Hall. We were both talking. We're like, hey, hey Chan, don't leave me here with these ghosts. You know, we're messing around. He goes, yeah, I'm gonna leave you here, you know. He told me, don't worry. You work calm, there's no events, you know, so there's no one in the house. As soon as he said there's no one in the house, the murder room door closes. Boom. Oh, just give me just.
See, that's there is no wind or anything in this home.
As soon as he said that, I swear to God.
Did he hear it?
Yes.
We
were there, both. And we both stop and stare at the murder room. And then Chase like, F this, I'm gone. I was like, no, Chang. I was like, no, don't leave me. But that day it really spooked us. I swear, as soon as he said, there's no one in the house, the murder room door closed. Shut. Boom. It was like a loud bang on the door. It echoed through the whole house. Because the thing is that we were facing east, because we were talking, because we were actually walking out. And we were like walking slowly. Yeah, man. I can't remember what else we were talking about. But as soon as we stopped, he goes, there's someone in the house. And the bang was so loud, we both stopped, looked at each other. We turned back west. And then Che was like, I'm out. You're all alone. And I was like, well, I guess I have to deal with it, you know? There were days that I was honestly terrified to step into the house. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what it was, but for instance, when there was cloudy days in the morning, it would make the house like dark. Even with the lights on, it was just completely dark. And I honestly felt like I was scared to step in the house. You know, just knowing that all the lights were off, I had to turn them on. And that sometimes I would just work outside. I would wait until the park opened so I could come in. So I could have people around. Because I was scared.
So you've got Martin who has the gift. He had the gift.
Right.
Remember, we've talked about Martin before, how when he was a child. The gift, the abilities to sense, hear, feel, smell, all those things. And so he had the gift, and he had to go in there and mop and dust and stuff like that with all these spirits around him. Chan also, I believe, I know there's a family member that has the gift. Very personal, don't want to get into it, but Chan has sensed stuff. He was the one who saw the little girl at the front door. Did we do that already? I think. God, I don't even know.
If we haven't, they'll hear about it.
No, you're going to hear about it. But he was the one who was at the front door and felt the hand, right? Remember, it felt on his shoulder? Yeah. So he has the gift, and the family member told him, get in the house and get out.
Right.
Don't hang around in there. It's not a good place, right?
Right.
So he's got that in his head. So when he comes in, now he's with Martin. So you got two guys that have abilities. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to try to get their attention. And they use the murder room to do it. Isn't that crazy?
It's unbelievable.
Oh, man.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah, and until something like that happens to you and you're in that house, man, it shakes you. It really does shake you. So he was that poor guy, man. And
Martin, he was genuinely frightened every time he walked into that mansion.
Yeah. And I talked to him. I come and see him. Hey, man, how you doing? Okay, I hope I can get through the day. You know, and there was also another woman, Elva. I think she's got a story or two here, I believe, I hope. And she would show up at Greystone, and she would park her car at what's called the AFI lot, which is really close by.
It's called AFI. Why?
Because AFI was there between 1969 to 82. It was their campus, basically, for $1 a year. What a deal. So she would park there, right outside the public restrooms, and she'd get there early, and she would pray for like half an hour with a rosary, the whole thing, man. She was, because she had to go in that house. That poor lady. I felt bad for her.
It was frightening for her.
And she would hear and hear voices and smell cigarettes and which I don't think we have it, because it's kind of odd, but I did an interview with her in the living room, and a voice comes through. And I mean a male voice, loud, but it's right like when I'm talking hits the same point. You don't even know this one. And
why aren't we playing that? Why aren't we doing that one? Is it hard to?
Well, I step on the voice, so you can't really understand what it's saying.
But you heard it.
Oh, yes, really. Maybe we'll find it and we'll use it as a sound or something at one point. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that one.
No, I don't think you have. I'll find it. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
All right. The next one is, let's see, this is Juan, Ranger Juan. And he called you late one night, right?
This is one of my favorites.
They're all your favorites.
I know, but I have many, but because they just fascinate me. But here's one where Ranger Juan, we don't want to give his Andrade his last name, right?
What?
Yeah. So Ranger Juan calls me, because listen, at some point we're all into this. I was certainly mesmerized by the paranormal. And then I found...
Still are.
Thank you. I found people like Juan and others, Dan and Steve, my buddies, they were into it as well. So if something happened, and Chan too.
And Patrick and... Everybody.
We were all in it together. And so something happened this night, and it really is bizarre and astounding, and he called me at 10:30 at night to talk to me. And I think that's this call. Or I met him the next morning. I know I met him the next morning and did an interview. So,
all right, well, let's listen to it.
Let's hear it.
Let's do that.
Yep.
I could see him kind of float up and down. And I said, do they have a trampoline in there that's making them catch some air and they would stay up like a couple of seconds?
Okay. Here's the deal.
Yeah, set that up.
I should have set it up. It's a mother-son dance. And in the murder room bathroom is what he's talking about. He is outside to make a phone call. I don't think he says this. He's outside to make a phone call, and he's looking in the window, and this is what he's talking about. He's seeing something. He thinks there's a...
Yeah, let it.
I don't know if we're going to go back, if he's going to say it again. He thinks there's a trampoline in the bathroom, and so we'll go from there.
Okay.
Down. Down.
Up and down.
Up and down.
And so I said from outside, I'm like, kids got into the bathroom. They're going to take a piss, do something. So I immediately came into the side door, opened the door, because this was closed.
Mm-hmm. Bathroom door.
And I saw the photography guy packing his stuff up. And I
looked around the door.
And I said to the guy, there shouldn't be any kids in here. And he looked at me weird. He said, there's no kids in here. And he said, there hasn't been any kids in here. And I looked again and I said, I just saw a kid from the outside. He's like, no, there's no kid in here.
Did you think it was paranormal when you saw it?
No, it looked like a boy. It looked like a boy in a white shirt, and a lot of the boys that came to the dance.
This is a mother-son dance.
They were wearing white shirts underneath their coats, but when I came in, all the little boys that were in the outside and in here, they all had their coats on. So I couldn't say that kid doesn't have his coat on. That was probably the kid. No, they all had their coats on. Because the west door was open, so there was a cool air coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any kids here with a white shirt only. They all had their black coats.
So you're going like, well, where's the kid who did the jumping? Because there's nobody with just a white shirt on. Did you say you could see his hair or what he looked like or something?
No, I couldn't see any details of his hair. I just saw that his head was down as he was jumping. It was like he was going up and coming back down. And
so when you do that, you're putting your arms kind of out by your side, not straight down.
No.
But they're kind of out, away from your body, and his head was faced downward toward the tile or the floor when he jumped up.
Yeah, it looked like he was jumping on the trampoline.
So we're outside now on the terrace, and we're going to see where Juan was looking.
I was right here, and I was looking straight at that window. You see how high that is?
Yeah, it's really high. As a matter of fact, would you go stand over there and take a photo of you standing so we can see how high it is? What was in your head once you realized it was paranormal? Because there's no kid in there. I mean, what went through your mind then?
I thought the photographer was covering for the kid.
Interesting.
But why would he cover for the kid?
Right. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And then when you finally realized it was paranormal,
the little boy that's been seen here already, what, twice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You think it might have been him?
Could have been him. He was wearing the white shirt. High up in the air?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't understand. How did he get up so high?
So Juan and I, we went into that bathroom, and I did I had a tape measure and all this stuff. And if you can picture this, a bathroom that has a window to the south side. There's a shower to the north side. The photographer was down this way. The kid is jumping up to the top of this window. Now, when you look at the window inside, it was, I don't even...
How tall is Juan?
He's probably about 5'9".
He's not tall.
No.
So, and the window is well above him.
Way up there.
Yeah.
And so if this is a child, because it's a mother-son dance, and the kids are like 8, I think, 8 and 10. So they're small. They're not big kids. Even myself, I said to Juan, because there was a curtain there at the window, and then the top of it was more like a leaded glass. I said, I can't jump up there. And especially when he says he's jumping up, he's kind of hanging in the air. Well, that's what we would do. But he said, and I questioned him on this. Wait, you're saying to me that he's going up in the air and he's kind of hanging? He goes, well, that's why I thought it was a trampoline where you can get some air and then go down. It was impossible. So then we're looking at, if you see the window this way, the toilet's over here. So
he couldn't jump from the toilet to the window because he'd be going at an angle.
Exactly, that's what we said. I said, well, if he's jumping there to get that high, which I don't think he could do anyway. He's a kid. To get that high, it'd be like this, and he'd come. So this was straight up, and he showed me like this, and his head's almost at the ceiling, and then he comes down. And he's like, "What is that?" Up. That to me is incredible.
It's unbelievable. And then is that when he went back in and said, hey, there's a kid?
Yeah, and told the guy.
What's going on?
And he showed me. The photographer had all his equipment in the bathroom on the floor. So he's getting it ready for the end of the night. He's getting all his equipment, and that's when he leaned in and said, don't let kids in here. And he said, there are no kids in here. I saw somebody. So the photographer, he thought he was covering for the kid, but there have been children seen throughout that location, and Juan has seen them 2 or 3 times.
Right,
a girl and a boy, and which is just astounding to me. I mean, I wish I had that happen to me. Well, you could see that. You could actually see that. I never had that happen to me. And Juan has the gift again, so we always can't throw that out. Here's a guy who has the gift, and maybe this child, the spirit, knowing that Juan's looking at the window out at the terrace, decides, I'm going to give him a show.
Right.
Doing that, and the guy's in there probably getting his equipment done, all that stuff, and this kid's in there doing a whole little show for Juan, and this guy can't see it. So...
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great story. It's a great story.
Yeah, and he was adamant about that that's what he saw.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. I mean, enough to where he's going around and talking to the photographer and saying, look, we can't do this.
and I love the fact that he went in and he looked at all the kids to see who had the shirt off.
Yeah.
Let's find the culprit.
Yeah.
And all the kids had their little, white suit jackets
if it was
on.
a kid that was doing it who couldn't.
Yeah.
But he could have put his jacket on by then or whatever. But
possibly.
You can't do it. I've seen that bathroom and I know how high that window is.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So why don't we wrap up with our final show of our sound of the show?
Okay.
And I can play it, or we can discuss it, or however you want to do it.
Well, I want to hear what this is.
Okay, you got it.
And then we'll discuss it.
Okay.
Yep.
One more time.
Well, there's not a lot to discuss there, is it? I mean,
no, but explain how that came about, where you were, or where it was placed, if you remember where the recorder was placed. I mean, they're hearing that and they're thinking,
yeah, it's a bunch of crap. So, as you know, if you've been following these many episodes, I put my recorder in that mansion hundreds of times over the 22 years because I was just enthralled with the idea of capturing things. And one night, December 15th, 2015, I remember it well, I left my recorder, which I did most of the times. I would leave the recorder in the center of the second floor landing. Now, either it was on a pedestal that was in there, or I put it right on the railing. So that right down below is the grand entry, but it's also the grand hall. And then you've got the hallway, the second floor landing there, which is servant's wing, and the master bedroom. So you're right in the hub of it. And so I'd always leave it there. And that night, I came the next day, grabbed it, put it home, and eventually you throw it on there and you listen to 8 hours as I'm reading sometimes. And you know what's really cool? Can I say this?
Yeah.
Well, here's what's really cool. When you do it a lot, you're listening to like white noise, right?
So explain to them, you've got the recorder and it's just sitting there and it's playing, it's recording silence. So you're listening to that while you're writing or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, but there is no silence in a recording. There's always some kind of sound. So when you put it, I put it in my computer on a wave pad, and I load it all in for, it's 3 hours and 22 minutes. That's what one thing of that.
One segment.
Then it switches to another 322, then another until you get there in the morning and shut it off. So you have all these segments, and when you hear it, it sounds like, it's never perfectly. It's a recorder. It's a
It's an inexpensive.
Yeah.
It's a nice recorder, but it's inexpensive. It's not like
Peter Devlin, which we'll get into later on. Professional
recording equipment.
Yeah. But it's really good. So what I do is that white noise. You get so used to hearing that white noise. You get so used to hearing that pitch of that white noise that you start hearing things through the white noise. So I will hear voices sometimes off in the distance, and I'll play it to somebody else and say, "Do you hear in the background?" No, because they're not used to hearing that white noise. And I got very good at that, and didn't need to listen to the white noise on this one. This was astounding, so loud, and the cool. We're going to play it one more time.
Sure.
But the cool thing about it is also the echo. Remember, this house is empty. There's no furniture in the house. We did a design show. There would be furniture in there, but the majority of the time, it's empty. So it's echoey. The whole thing's echoey. This gunshot, echoes throughout the house. And I had a guy who showed up to go inside the mansion. Couldn't do it. It was the end of my day. He came up to the gatehouse down below the south end where I was heading out to go home. And he said, I thought, well, yeah, we're closed. And he said, is this real? Is this place? And every once in a while I go, you know what? I'll tell you what. I have it on my phone. How sick I am. I have this gunshot on my phone. I played it for him, and the guy was like a weapons expert. And
he told you that?
Yeah. He goes, yeah, no, maybe he wasn't.
No, I don't know.
But he named whatever the gun was. He goes, well, I go, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You just tell me what it is. I didn't tell him it was a gunshot. Played it for him, and he goes, that's a Colt 40. I don't know what he.
You always say Colt 45.
Because maybe I drank too much in my early days. But it was, he knew exactly what
the type of caliber weapon or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, with the gun. And I went, really? He goes, oh, yeah, no, this is what I do. I mean, I've worked with weapons this night. I went, wow, okay. So.
Do you remember you don't remember what he said, right?
No, I don't. I wasn't recording him. I didn't know.
Yeah, you weren't even thinking about it then.
No, he just showed up and I was on my way out. So.
Yeah, you must have been startled when you were listening and heard that shot.
Oh, man. And that's the other thing. So you're listening, you get used to white noise, even if it was like sometimes when you sleep, you put a white noise.
Well, or a fan or anything, a constant same
that
sound.
It lulls you into just like kind of nice, quiet. So that's what I have on my headphones. And I'm just either reading something. I usually am reading something, and you're just lulled into your book, and all bam, and you go. I get so panicked. What do I shoot? Stop! What was that? It's so crazy, and that isn't the only gunshot. I've got other gunshots. That's the best of the bunch I've ever had, but like that one with Dan walking away.
Right.
Remember, we played that already.
That was in earlier, I think, episode 2.
Yeah. Dan says, Sunday, whatever, and he says, okay, goodbye. And he sets my recorder and he walks away.
Where was that?
That was at the second floor landing.
Second floor landing, okay.
Up right when you walk in, upstairs.
Okay.
And you hear like what sounds like a gunshot there. And then I had other ones that weren't as deep and powerful as this one, but that were almost like we talked about, like when they did the show, called The Manor, the play, they had blanks in a small.
They had a play that they performed inside the mansion, and they would actually use a weapon.
Yeah, to portray the death of a Doheny. Really, they didn't use the name Doheny, but because they couldn't do that.
Right.
But they were on the staircase and all that, and it was a blank, a 22 blank, which isn't that big of a snap, like Martin says, but in that mansion, it echoes. It's loud, right? So, but this one was not a 22.
No.
Play it again, please. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really powerful. Now, question then, it begs the question of, what is that? Where'd that come from? Well, my feeling is, it could be residual, meaning the energy is within the walls from the night of the murders, I guess, or murder-suicide. I think that's what that is.
Which to me is very sketchy because I don't get the limestone holding energy and playing it 100 years, almost 100 years later.
Because you just don't, you're not thinking. I mean, if you knew anything about the paranormal.
The problem is I am thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Exactly.
How dare you
in
front of these people.
Let's wrap it up.
Sorry.
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so listen, so what's up next? Can we talk about that, or do you have something else?
First, I just want to make sure you subscribe and like or ring the bell, whatever it takes to stay on with our episodes, stay up with them. And if you have any comments about this show or any others, leave them below. We'd love to hear them. Also, if you have any experiences at Greystone, that we would love to know.
Please contact me.
Yeah, and if you don't feel comfortable with putting it in the show notes, in the notes down below or wherever, then feel free to go to our website, ghostsofgreystone.com, and leave us a personal message, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And you maybe your story, if it has to do with Greystone, might even make the show.
Yeah, or if I do another book, there's a chance I might do something like that because some other things have happened that you don't know.
Right.
That's crazy.
So that's ghostsofgreystone.com.
Yeah. What is next what is our next show?
Next episode, 3 locations, by the way. 3. This is the ladies' powder room, the formal dining room, and the breakfast room.
Oh, that'll be cool. I know, just thinking of it now, there are physical attacks, there are sounds, there are apparitions and orbs.
That's correct.
Yeah. It's like 3 different locations, because like you'd have maybe 2 that happen at one and then 2 at another. It's really good. It's really great, and it reminds me. That reminds me all those sounds and everything. That just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. We'll see you next week.
100 horses in 5 freight trains couldn't drag me into that early grave. I've cashed in the mistakes I've made, while God rode shotgun from 1,000,000 miles away. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. Sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. Riding till the trail grows cold, where the hillsides burn, amber and smoke. The sheep and the shepherd are lost on different roads, blinded by hate, blinded by hope. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay,